Hello, I'm Father Louis Scurti, and I welcome you to Friends of the Word, the Weekday Word. Today, my guest is Msgr Louis Bihr, a friend of 40 years at least, and he has a very interesting story to share with us. Welcome, Lou.
Thank you.
The story is addiction.
Yes. I think there's a lot of people who really don't understand addiction well. First of all, I don't think they understand it's a disease. Secondly, it's a non-discriminatory disease, so it could happen to anybody or anyone. And I think I'm a perfect example of that because it happened to me.
Mm. Let's go back a little bit. The disease specifically is alcohol or
Well,
not?
well, addiction is many different things.
Yeah,
For
for you.
me personally, it was alcohol.
Alcohol.
Yeah.
At what point in your life did you realize that you had the illness?
Um, well, at first I didn't realize it at all. I was in total denial
Mm-hmm.
until eventually it was suggested that I attend guest house, which is a alcohol rehab for priests. And while I was out there, it's when I really understood and began to understand that I definitely did have this problem.
And you mentioned guest house, and I want to use a piece of scripture that you found at guest house on a banner. Did you say?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. The reading is from Old Testament. It's from Tobit, and Tobit is famous. There's one person in the scriptures that is famous in Tobit, and Tobiah and the family is the archangel Raphael. So it opens with, when Raphael entered the house, Tobit greeted him first. Raphael said, "Hearty greetings to you." Tobit replied, "What joy is left for me any more? Here I am, a blind man who cannot see God's sunlight, but must remain in darkness, like the dead who no longer see light. Though alive, I am among the dead. I can hear a man's voice, but I cannot see him." Raphael said, "Take courage. God has healing in store for you. So take courage." And that's what we'll stop at, is from chapter 6, verse 10 and 11. How significant is that reading in your life?
The reading was very significant, and the banner that was on the wall was significant because that's what really helped me make my decision. I still was in denial at that point, and one day I went to the chapel. I've been there numerous times before, never noticed the banner or those words.
Oh.
Sat there that one day, saw it, and kind of felt an arm around my shoulder saying, "It's okay, we'll lead you through life, there is a healing there for you." And that helped me to go to see my counselor after that and sit and talk with him about this whole thing, and for the first time actually say, "My name is Lou and I'm an alcoholic."
Wow. Let's go back even before that. You were in a parish,
Mm-hmm.
and what happened there that made you realize I should go to guest house?
Well, actually what happened was one of the priests from our diocese, Monsignor John Ryan at the time, took care of priests that they thought might have had a problem.
Okay.
And he invited me to see him one day. I went up to visit him. And I know now, I didn't realize at that, but he was telling me his story, what had happened to him, and where he had gone.
And that's significant, isn't it?
Yes,
Sharing your
it's
story.
very
Okay.
significant, yes.
Okay.
And I was sympathizing with him. This poor guy can't ever drink again. What a lousy life you have.
Wow.
And he couldn't drive. He had lost his license for a bit of time. And I'm telling him I could drive anytime, especially when I drink. I drive better.
Oh,
So if
wow.
you need a driver,
Whoa.
I'll drive you.
Talk about
yeah, exactly.
denial.
Right. And at some point he said to me, "I've heard that maybe you have a problem, and we think," meaning the bishop and myself, that maybe you should at least go to guest house for some type of evaluation. Although I didn't really think I had a problem, I decided to go, and now I'm blessed that I did.
Great. Did you resist? Like, not me. I mean, you said I don't think I have a problem. That's very mild.
Yeah.
But did you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, I resisted.
You
Definitely,
resisted,
yeah.
kicking and screaming.
Kicking and screaming. Showed up there in a very bad mood. There was an old doctor there who, the first day, did a physical, took blood, and second day they said, "We've diagnosed you." And I said, "You diagnosed me?" And they said, "Yeah, we've been diagnosed with acute alcoholism." And I called him a few names.
Oh, of
Can't
course.
say on television.
No.
You know?
That's good.
But,
That's good. The diagnosis, of course, followed the evaluation. Guest house is located where?
it's in Michigan, Lake Orion.
Okay, and it's specifically for religious
Yes.
men and
At
women.
that time it was just men, but now it's men and women.
Okay, so religious brothers, sisters,
deacons.
deacons. Excellent. Okay, so after the diagnosis, what happened?
Well, they put me in a group, assigned me a counselor. I went through groups for a while. The counselor, we had some sessions. And after you're there for a period of time, they began to send the priest in the house to outside AA meetings.
Oh,
And
maybe just for sake of our viewers, AA.
AA is Alcoholics Anonymous. It's the program that helps people who suffer from the addiction of alcoholism. And part of the treatment is that it's important to go to meetings, to listen to what other people have to say, and to share with other people at the same time.
Now, in my counseling, that is one step, and when I refer people to AA, great resistance, because their stories are not my stories. How many times have I heard that? Did you have that experience?
I did. The first meeting I went to was a huge meeting, and it was around tables, 10 people at a table, but maybe there was, I don't know, 20 tables, so maybe it was 200 people there.
Oh, good.
They opened up with the readings and the things they normally do, but then they just went around the table, and the first thing we had to do, each person had to say their name and they were an alcoholic. And I wasn't convinced about that. But I was convinced that there was probably a spy at the table who would go back to the rehab if I didn't say it.
Oh, wow.
So I kind of choked a little bit and said it. The second thing that happened...
That was Raphael putting his hand on your shoulder.
It was, I think, yes. The second thing that happened, there was a young man I never saw before in my life, and I've never seen since. And when it came time to share, he used the word hope. That's the only word that I heard that night.
Wow.
Was the word hope.
That's significant.
Yeah, and that's what helped me then eventually to be able to make that decision.
Okay, so we go fast forward to the chapel. How many days were you there at that point when you went to the chapel and had that experience of the Tubit?
I was probably there close to 3 months, about halfway through.
Really?
Yeah, I was a pretty big denial.
Wow. So you were, as you say, in denial, but going through the steps, going through the motions.
Yeah.
Going to the meetings.
Going to the, I was shortly before I went to my first meeting. In the beginning, we didn't go out to meetings. We just did our groups and our individual sessions with our counselor.
And needless to say, you had no alcohol at that point.
Right.
Do you have any reaction to not having a drink?
I didn't. I was lucky. I didn't need detox actually.
Again, just explain detox.
Okay, detox is when you take the alcohol, get the alcohol out of your system. So for maybe 5 days or so after you stop drinking, you really should be watched to make sure that there's no reaction as the alcohol is leaving your system.
And for some people, that's hell.
It is.
That really is hell.
Yeah.
Nausea, vomiting, and all of the
dry
elements.
heaves and everything else.
Yeah. Okay, so thank God you didn't go through that.
Right.
Okay. So you're there 3 months, and one day you go into the chapel.
Yeah, and that's when I really decided. And once that happened, and I talked to my counselor, and I did that. The first step in Alcoholics Anonymous is admitting we're powerless over alcohol, and our lives have become unmanageable. And that's what I did with him that first time. And then we began to work on the other steps, and to take a look at my life, to see some of the things that I had to deal with once I left, to make sure that there wouldn't be a relapse.
Were there, in that process of examining, were there triggers in your life that you said, oh, that's one of the ones that causes me to drink? Or
Yeah. I realized I had some very, very low self-esteem, number one. So part of that was have to build that up. Secondly,
and yet at that point, were you a Monsignor?
No.
Okay, you weren't a Monsignor, but you were a
yet.
pastor.
No, not yet.
No, not a pastor. So this is way back when.
Yeah, I was still in the soul. I was convinced I was going to be the associate for the rest of my life at that point. And that was going to be it. First of all, I thought I was marked, by being sent to the rehab.
Oh, wow, labeled.
Labeled, yeah.
Now, that's significant because I think that's one of the problems, too. I don't want to be called an alcoholic.
Right.
So in the early stages when I'm counseling families and the identified person is the user, the addict, I don't use alcoholic. So it's not my job to label anybody. But there is a problem with alcohol. That's the mild way of getting around it. And what I do with the family is, what problems do the family members have with your drinking? And that's significant because then the eyes are opened sometimes.
Right.
Okay, and how has it been? What kind of a journey has it been?
Well, it's been beyond my wildest dreams, to be honest. When I talked to my counselor and I finally made that first decision and we began to work on things, I became convinced that as he talked to me, that when I came home, going to X number of Alcoholics Anonymous meetings per week was going to be necessary. Finding somebody who was a sponsor that I could talk to, especially if I felt some of those triggers starting to come back again. Listening to what other people had to say, and being willing to share with other people. I really bought into that. So when I came home from there, I was there for 6 months. Actually, the first thing they made me do was the first weekend I was home, I had to preach at every Mass and tell everyone I had been in a rehab and I was an alcoholic.
Wow. They recommended that?
They recommended that.
Which is so humbling and strong.
Yeah. If it were up to me, I would have just went to another parish and, made believe it never happened. But they said, no, that's not good for you. First, number one, we think you should go back to that parish and tell them it's first of all. Secondly, we think you should stay there for at least a period of time to work through it.
Good. To normalize your new life in the old atmosphere. Is it recommended that often people leave, not necessarily priests, the old atmosphere, situation, family, friends, things like that?
Frequently, they talk about people, places, and things.
Right.
Moving away from people that you drank with, or places that you drank at,
right,
or things or situations that you believe caused you to drink, even though you're the one that picked it up and put it in.
Right.
So a lot of times people do have to change those people, places, and things in their life.
And for you, what were the people, places, and things? Don't name anybody, please.
No.
Got a list.
No, I don't know. I think it was just more me. The places was, my favorite hangout was a place called the Golden Steer.
Okay.
I was sort of like the chaplain there.
Oh, wow.
Unofficial chaplain there.
And the irony of it is people probably welcome you. Oh, here's Father Lou.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
Yep.
And have another drink.
Exactly. Yep.
I
didn't pay for very many.
See, that's
a lot of
that's
times, and which again was an enablement for me.
Sure.
Wise and
right. And the places, people. Did you drink alone? I mean,
no. I usually drank at the bar.
So your drinking was social.
It was social, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't drink in my room. I didn't drink in the rectory. I mean, unless it was with the other priest there and something was going on.
Right. And when you drank, say at this bar or any other bars, at what point did you realize? Maybe you never realized it at that point. I had too much. Did that ever come about?
No, not really. No, I used to think I had blessings, like a hollow leg.
You quote, drink them under the table. All
exactly.
That
Yeah,
stuff.
last man standing. Another blessing, which later on I realized wasn't really a blessing, was I very seldom had hangovers.
So you got up the next morning and said Mass.
I did.
Right.
And many times there was a priest there who was hard of hearing, so if he didn't hear his alarm clock and they called, I was up and out and took his place.
Wow.
So that was all excuses for me to say, well, I don't really have a problem. See, I can do all of this.
Yes. Okay, we're going to continue this at a future video taking. This has been Father Louis Scurti working with Father Louis Bihr, Msgr Louis Bihr, on the addiction issue of alcoholism. Thank you, Louis, for being with us, and we'll be back.
Thanks. Appreciate it.